Hello, everyone. That was quite an intro. I really like that. I mean, I feel like we were in a party. We're really doing it. Hello, this is Bookselling in Times of War, and I am Erinchak. I'm the publisher of Publishing Perspectives, and I will be your moderator today. I want to introduce our panelists. So next to me, I have Okelksii Erinchak from Kyiv and the bookstore Sense. Next to Okelksii, I have Vanessa Martini from Green Apple Books in San Francisco. And on the end, I have Mahmoud Muna from Educational Bookshop in East Jerusalem. Welcome. So to set the tone for our panel today, I want to sort of, the title of our panel is Bookselling in Times of War. And we're here to hear from three very different perspectives. From Okelksii in Kyiv, where bookstores serve communities under bombardment. From Vanessa in San Francisco, facing the challenges of polarization and the book ban movement. And from Mahmoud in East Jerusalem, where cultural spaces live under intense political pressure. And in each situation, it's distinct. But what our panelists have in common is the role of bookstores as anchors of culture and community in these times of crisis. And that's what we're going to be focusing on the panel here today. So I'm going to start off by asking each of our panelists to tell us a little bit about your bookstore and how it fits into your community, who are the readers that you serve, and what kind of books do you sell? Just to give us a sense of the bookstore in your community. Okelksii, if you want to start?
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Okelksii, as I said. So, Sense Bookstore was an answer for the question where to meet with my local community, because I wanted to develop in Kyiv something like community, because people in modern cities don't need to be in community, because every delivery, every internet, every service can help you to survive without neighbors. That's why it was an idea to connect everyone first in one chat in WhatsApp or Telegram, and then where to meet to make it in person, because in person people better answering each other and better communicate. So 2 months before the full-scale invasion, we opened the bookstore in my neighborhood. Second idea was to bring Ukrainian books on stage, to have a place where Ukrainian books will not compete with Russian books, because before the full-scale invasion we have 75 to 80% books in Ukraine in Russian language. And then full-scale invasion started, and our bookstore became a community center, a volunteer hub. We help the army, we help civilians, we help everyone to feel normal in this wartime, because bombing and shooting and etc., it's not normal. But we are human beings. We wanna go to something that we are used to, where it make us like happier, and that's why for me it was very important to keep a store open for people who didn't leave the Kyiv, who stay there and started to develop a new reality. And then in two years we opened the huge bookstore on Main Street in Kyiv, Khreshchatyk, and now it's an answer for a book reader community, cultural community, and other communities who cares about our Ukrainian identity, our language, our fighting against the brutal Russia, which make us suffer not only in war zone like with shooting, but also in cultural space. Right. That's why for now we our key space in Kyiv, where everyone from books, from publishers, from just readers can meet each other, can sit on presentation, etc., and can be on this festival around people who the same thinking, the same loving books, loving culture, identity, etc.
Wonderful, thank you. Mahmoud, could you go next and tell us a little bit about educational bookshop, and tell us a little bit about its history and.
Sure. I thank you. Thank you. It's great to be back in Frankfurt, and I'm sorry I'm not matching up with the black.
He didn't get the
dress
memo
here.
about the black shirts.
I've been dressing in black over the last 2 years, and this week is the right time to move into a bit more hopeful colors.
Perfect.
The educational bookshop started with actually my dad, some 44 years, and he was a teacher and was teaching very early in the morning, and in the afternoon he wanted to continue his mission of education outside school. So he started the educational bookshop in East Jerusalem in the occupied Palestinian territory. And it's still surviving until today. It's moved to the hands of the sons, and now we have the grandsons. And we've been in operation of 40 odd years, mostly focusing initially on literature and in books in the Arabic language, but particularly because of the political climate in which we are operating in. And Jerusalem being, I don't know, God zip code 00, I guess, where all the different people from religious and ethnic and political backgrounds are interested in. So we moved into having books in English and books in German and Italian and Spanish that deals with the Middle East as a topic, and with the Palestine-Israeli conflict as a subtopic to that. And of course, as like any other bookstore in the last 10 years, you will have to do more than just selling books. You will have to step into the areas of promoting literature, promoting writers, but also creating a hub for discussion. And that's kind of a big part of what we do as well. And I'll finish by saying, particularly in Jerusalem, this is unique because it is one of the only places where people could still meet. And if you're creating an atmosphere of civilized, candid, open, direct conversation where you have different groups of people, then you will be leading a space of conversation that's quite unique as well. And that's what we are very happy to do around book promotion as well.
Yes, wonderful. Thank you. Vanessa, can you tell us a little bit about Green Apple Books?
So Green Apple Books is 57 years old now, and we have a network of 3 stores. Our second store, Books on the Park, celebrated its 10th anniversary. So we're very deeply rooted in the San Francisco community, host 2 to 3 events a week, very established deep roots with many regulars who've been coming for decades, bringing their kids and their grandkids, and many partnerships with San Francisco-based organizations, particularly focusing on books for the incarcerated. So that's something that we're very proud of at Green Apple.
Nice. And San Francisco is quite a tourist location, so do you have a large community of people who live there and you also get people coming through? And does that change the sort of audience that you're curating books for?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say Green Apple Books is kind of the only book shop on the west side of San Francisco. So if you're living in that area and want books, you're coming to us, the northwest side, I should say. And I guess we do get tourist people coming in saying like, oh my God, it's so great to see a bookstore. It's so great to see a bookstore. And usually I ask where they're from, and then I'm like, well, you have this bookstore in your town. Do you go there?
No,
Probably
they
not.
don't. All right, well, good. So you're educating tourists on other bookstores around the country or world. Great, wonderful. So we're going to pivot a little bit. So you've told us a little bit about sort of your bookstores and your communities and how you serve your communities. Now, in these sort of times of war that we're talking about, how has that changed your relationship with your community, the work that we do? You started a little bit about, so we're going to start with Mahmoud to sort of start that conversation, then we'll come back to you and we'll talk about the future. But Mahmoud, how has that, have sort of raids on the store and other kind of, instances prevent people from wanting to come to the store? Has that changed what kind of activities you are able to provide in the store, or has anything changed? You tell us.
Yeah, I mean, in most, I think it adds and increased the responsibility of the bookstores and the bookselling in their community. I mean, it's not a secret that when political elite or political leadership in a place fail its people to provide answers and to provide good ways of solving issues, that the responsibility goes back into intellectuals, artists, figures of society, civil society, but also bookstores as well.
Yeah.
So you'll have to relate, if you like, to the context in which we are or which you are operating, and that increases the sense of your responsibility as well. But also, if it happens that this institution also becoming more for the lack of a better word, going more to the right and getting more in a police state and more into limiting freedoms and rights, then becomes a pressure on the bookstore itself to survive. And what we experienced in the last year of police raid and questioning and asking about the books and accusing booksellers of inciting and these things, that's actually booksellers takes very seriously, because we are in the business of provoking ideas. That's what we are. We're not in the business of violence, but we are in the business of getting people challenged with their ideas and reading something that they didn't read anymore, because that's what is every new book they're going to read. So yes, we would like people to go out of their comfort zone and read books that challenge their perceptions, if you like. That's our responsibility in a way. But when you are accused that that is violent, is very weird and is very life-changing, to be honest.
Sure.
I grew up in a house where my dad would tell me every room you go to, and if it has books, that's a peaceful place, that's a good place, that's a place where you could lend your trust. If you go into a room or an office or a place that has no books, you should be worried. That's a sign of violence. A room without the books is like a body without a soul. And then you come, and then the police reverse that upside down and tell you that your bookstore is a cause of violence. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
People don't turn violence when they read books. They actually become educated. I think that's the kind of the responsibility level that increase. And in one way, you wanted to do more for your society, but then the force against you is also magnitude and increase in large. And that's hopefully just give us more energy to work harder, I guess.
Yes. And just a follow-up question there. Did it change the kinds of books that you carried, or did you feel emboldened to carry them even more?
It shouldn't, because if it did, then you are caving in, if you like.
Right.
It didn't. What it does, I think, it actually give you a bit more sense of importance for yourself, particularly in our case when we had a very large support from the local community and the outside community. So you feel you are supported, you are loved, you are appreciated. That gives you a bit more sense of self-respect and self-motivation to work harder. And I think it galvanizes your operations as well. And then you suddenly you can't be in the shop because you are in custody for 2 days, and suddenly you come back and you find this 10 people that volunteered that you didn't know about, that they loved your shop, and you didn't know that they actually are in love with your space, and they volunteered for your place. And suddenly you feel about your importance for the society as well. And if anything, that actually makes you stronger and makes you more wanted to continue the promotion of literature and books.
That's amazing, yeah. Vanessa, we've just come off Banned Book Week in the US, which was last week. And we're sort of, in the US, we're really facing a lot of sort of polarization around ideas, the censorship. Can you talk a little bit about what you're doing in Green Apple Books and your dedication to your community and what books you carry?
Absolutely. I mean, in San Francisco and California in general, we're pretty lucky with the demographic that we have and serve. It's not necessarily the main challenge facing San Francisco bookstores in particular, but it's something that we hear about all the time from our bookselling colleagues around the country about how difficult it has been to especially maintain partnerships with schools and institutions that serve children. It's becoming a real chilling effect, and for many indie bookstores, those school partnerships are a huge part of their business. So I've spent a lot of time talking with bookstores from around the country about how can I help you? What is something that we might be doing that might be another angle for you to replace those lost sales? And it really also shows that usually it's one person on a school board that is really being loud about this. And so if you're going back to the States, I would encourage you to figure out ways that you can join school board associations and be that kind of reasonable voice in the room of saying, hold on, I don't know if we need to get so upset about this particular book. I don't know if we need to be banning this book to be carried in libraries. But something that we, as I mentioned before, we partner with the Prisoners Literature Project, and the incarcerated in America are some of the people with the least rights of any kind, and that includes intellectual rights. And so we are very proud to be providing literature to people in prisons, and that I think is something that we see how those people are considered basically don't have the right to knowledge, don't have the right to access knowledge. And what is happening in the States right now is attacks on institutions of knowledge and inquiry, whether that's libraries, research grants, arts grants, and bookstores are one of the last places. Because we're retail, at the end of the day, we don't take that money from the government in the same way. We still have the ability to shape our the stock that we carry, and not necessarily have to worry about funding being pulled from something above us.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Alexa, you told us a little bit about how, that you started the bookstore 2 months before the war began, and so the idea for the bookstore, I'm sure, was different than what it became, but you talked about how important it is for volunteer action, for community building, and all of those things. How has reading changed? What kind of idea between when the bookstore started and now, what has the sort of reading culture or conversation, what are the conversations being had in your bookstore?
I think then any crisis started, people trying to think about why is it.
Yeah.
And our name of bookstore is sense, mean like sense, not feeling, but meaning, yeah, in Ukrainian. So our even name become popular because of people started to search for real sense as
nice.
and because of the war you can't understand why it's happening with you, why it's happening with us, with Ukraine, and the people started to think and to go to the bookstore to find the answers. And that's why if before full-scale invasion they thought we will try to make reading more popular, work with parents, with kids, etc., etc., etc. After full-scale invasion started, we focused on Ukrainian identity, a huge lie which was spread by Russia and with which a lot of people in Ukraine are poisoned still because you see current political situation around the world that liars with money wins usually minds of people who likes to scroll TikTok or Instagram, etc., not to think. I'm not talking here even about critical thinking. I'm talking about thinking as a procedure, which is not that popular nowadays. And we have to fight against against ideas of people who said that Ukraine is not a real country. Ukrainian language is was 20 years ago wasn't such thing. We have to fight against people who against lies of people who saying that Ukrainian books are not interesting, Ukrainian culture is small, Ukrainian literature is unavailable, not unavailable, but not exist at all.
Oh, yeah.
We have to take all our authors who've been executed by Russia, Soviet Union, etc., and promote them to show our people that we have a culture, we have a literature, and if it was no Russia on the market, yeah, probably everyone will know it, and probably everyone will be happy to have such literature and such culture. But most of the people who were educated in Soviet Union or in Russian media sphere, they think about great Russian culture, not nothing about Ukrainian culture. That's why our bookstore become like a space where we have to promote Ukrainian culture, Ukrainian language, Ukrainian author, Ukrainian poetry, everything that Ukrainian. But for now, it's 3.5, almost 4 years from full-scale invasion. This interest to Ukrainian culture went lower because in the beginning everyone is cheer up. We didn't lose in 3 days. That's why we are like fighting. But for now we have almost 4 years of fighting, and it's very difficult to be focused on culture and literature, etc. You have to be focused on your life, on your future, on your some basic things as salaries, as bills, etc.
Yeah.
That's why for now we are feeling in Ukrainian market that it's less interest to the books and to the culture, but hopefully we as players will promote it more and make our rising, because we almost 3 years it was a rising of Ukrainian book, because it was vacuum after Russian books left, and we all the publishers published,
Yeah.
and now we a bit of stopping of this. And, you know, Mahmoud working on political educational things, and we are trying to work on political educational things, but when publishers buying fiction stories, mostly fantasies, etc.,
Yeah.
and trying to sell it as much as possible, it's kind of difficult to fight against this because non-fiction, history, or political books not promoted in book talks, not promoted so well. You cannot see
It's
like.
hard. They don't get up like a big fan base.
Yeah, yeah,
you know?
yeah.
People don't go crowd surfing.
And
at
because of
history
that, our
events, yeah.
like part of this fantasy, fiction, etc. books, it's become bigger and bigger in Ukrainian market because it wasn't established market. That's why for now it's another thing like to be face on for our bookstore because we want to focus on Ukrainian. After we want to focus on history, on politics, on thinking, but to compete with the book talk, it's kind of a challenge now.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yes, book talk it makes everything challenging. I think, but I think I think also yes, it's hard for 4 years to be focused on something and to put so much energy into it and to continue that fight and doing all of those good things. And so hopefully the community can help support. And we're going to talk about how international book international booksellers can work closely together to support you as well. So, yeah.
I want to thank all of the Ukrainian people and all the foreigners who come to our store because it makes us some fuel to live and to do our job a better way. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. So how do we, in times of sort of, great strife and war, as we're talking about, how do we stay resilient? How do we keep our communities going? It's education a little bit, it's information, it's sharing ideas. What are some of the things that you're doing? Are there events or anything that you're hosting in your stores to sort of bring that going? Is it you're acquiring or you're bringing in new books to sell, to focus on some of those things? Are other organizations in your communities coming into the bookstore saying we want to partner on things? How are some of those things happening?
Yeah, if I may,
Yeah?
there are a few things. I think it's important to always remember the internal process first. We need to regain our self-esteem that we are almost like public health doctors in the society. We see the illnesses, we see what we are, and we kind of have to. We can't force the bills on people's throats, but we can put the literature and the books that address the disease of the moment, if you like, and then we just by putting them there, we are helping our society and relating to the moment that is. That's a very important about our role, and I think as curators of places, because booksellers are also curators of some sort, by curating our list and have less fiction, more non-fiction, or some good historical fiction at some point, or some good classics at some point, like you have to relate to your moment and believe that this is your role in the society. That's, I think, internally is very important for us. The second is more the external, if you like, and I think it's starting to think of creating new communities around bookstores and around books. Event is one of them, but also connecting with other institutions that have similar objectives or similar platforms, I think. And that's where events or festivals or children activities or just simply discussions, sometimes even answering this polarization issues that you mentioned is actually also by presenting the different views. Because if you can't have a civilized, candid discussion about a very polarized issue in a bookstore, where else are you going to have it? I mean, you're not allow it in the street for people to fight it. You need to discuss it in places like bookstores. So I think creating this internal communities around the bookstore, but in conversation with other groups, universities, think tanks, schools, whatever it is, I think it's a very, very important, and that's again feedback into our society as the masters of interplaces, if you like. That's what booksellers are. They kind of just connect the dots and create that space. It is, and I would like to really say this in Frankfurt. I think booksellers are one of the most honorable jobs in the world, and we need to look at it in that way. Not it's transactional, just selling books. You are part of a healthy society that always wanted to be better and promoting ideas of whatever liberal, progressive, democracy, liberation, justice, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. Vanessa, yeah, please.
Hi, you've inspired me to talk a little bit about what I've learned from the longer I stay in my career, the more that I realize it's less appealing and less useful to have kind of a one-size-fits-all policy about almost anything in your store. And something that we have approached at Green Apple with both books, particularly about conflict in Palestine and Ukraine, but about any book, is making sure that it's known by both the employees and the customers that anything is up for discussion. It's not so useful to say, we only have this type, we'll only do this exact thing when this exact thing happens. But especially from, as a manager to an employee, if I can say, you can talk to me about anything. It's not a hard and fast rule in the manual about how to do this. If you feel uncomfortable with something, if you have questions about why I'm carrying a certain book, it's all open for discussion. And the thing to me that demonstrates is that you need to continually show the community and show your employees, who are also your community, trust is being built constantly. It's not enough to just say, we are this type of bookstore, we are this type of place. You have to demonstrate it continually by the actions that you continually do and the ways that you continually talk to each other.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Okelksii?
In our bookstore on Khreshchatyk, we have 2 event halls, so we have almost like up to 50 events per month like this. And most of them
Did you say 50, 50?
Yeah.
Whoa, that's a lot of events a month.
Yeah, it's a big team, and we have to do it because we are trying to make an events about the books first of all, but these books can be from different communities, from historian communities, artists, musicians, from political, etc., 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 fiction, different types. And that brings us different people to each of this presentation, and it means that these different people meet each other in our space and meet with other people to communicate and just to have an option to hear someone or to say something to someone. And this is first very important part, because after COVID, everyone understood that everyone needs people, like people needs people, not just screens. And that's why we are like doing a lot of work for these events. Also, we have a very strong marketing team, and we're trying to take all those people from online to our bookstore. We have a huge TikTok, a great YouTube shows, and Instagram accounts. We have a lot of different partnership with different businesses and organizations. For example, for now, our TikTok actress, I don't know how to call her, blogger, like main lady in our TikTok. She's going to different companies and show their libraries, because for companies it's cool to show everyone they have libraries for employees. So we go to them and they make a video about this, and everyone is happy, and we are like trying to make reading more popular, and for companies and something they have to as a brand, as a HR brand, for them it's good, because once they have library, it means that they care about their employees. And every month we have 2, 3, 4 more of this kind of partnership. And for now, for winter, we will have a huge partnership with some cafe, 170 stores they have. It's called Lviv Croissants, and they will print on every cup something from some from books with author and our logo, and people will be like posting this in Instagram, because we've made it last year and it was amazing. I don't remember exact number, like million of cups with some quotes from the books Ukrainian authors. Cool, great for promoting of reading. And we're doing all the time. Our marketing team, it's almost 10 people. It's like small, not that small creative agency inside a bookstore. It's cost a lot, but still it's our duty to make it popular, to take people from online to offline, offline to promote reading, to promote thinking. That's why we have to do it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think that's, so I want to have a follow-up question there. So if you have TikTok, if you're using social media, are you engaging, how far beyond your community are you engaging? Do you have followers around the world, or?
For example, I started online store only because I didn't want to spend time to for managers to get orders online in Instagram, because our people who left country because of the war, they want to buy books from us. They want to be connected with us, and all of our activities is helping online. I mean, helping them also to be like to understand what's going on in our community and help them to stay connected, because it's very easy to left country because of the war and became German citizen or Spanish citizen, etc., and forget your roots, especially if these roots were cut like centuries by Russia. That's why for us it's very important, and we are connecting not only with people abroad, Ukrainian people, but also with our people in Ukraine, because our stores only in Kyiv and Ivano-Frankivsk now, but we have much more cities in Ukraine. Yeah. And I know that for in different tourist guides, it's one of the most visited place in Kyiv is our bookstore.
Cool.
That's why people who watching, who following us in Instagram and YouTube, TikTok, etc., first thing they doing when they come to Kyiv, go to Sense, go through the books, made some friends, and just feel all of this presence in moment with books, literature, and community.
Wow, that's great. Yeah. So I want to talk, Vanessa, a little bit about, we talked about your sort of store community and how you engage with other bookstores. How does the larger publishing community, do you get a lot of support from book publishers? Do you get a lot of support from readers? And can you talk a little bit about that, particularly when you were on the front line sort of engaging with, censorship and book bans and things like that?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, I feel like I'd say the best part of the book business is always meeting other book people, whether that's other booksellers from around the world or everybody here at the fair and people that I recognize in the chairs out there, hello. But the people in the book business are, I think, the best people. And the more that you can meet each other and engage with each other and realize that everybody out there working on these projects with you has the same dedication to this level of inquiry and dedication to what books can be. Somewhere like this, you do see the commercial side of it in a way that's kind of shocking sometimes. It can be very romanticized to the general public about like books and reading, but it's like, no, this is a vast commerce industry, but at the same time, everybody is in it kind of for love of the game, as we say. So that is, I think, something that's continually nourishing to me, is how everybody who is involved has the same goals for books. It is difficult, especially when you talk to somebody from a very small publishing house whose book suddenly blew up because it's about a free Palestine, and suddenly this author is being bombarded, this publisher is being bombarded, this bookstore that is being harassed, and the booksellers that are being DM'd constantly by people who wish them harm. It's difficult, and it makes me feel lucky in San Francisco. We don't have a ton of that. We've been very fortunate. We've got some customers coming in one-on-one, but nothing to the level of certain other stores that I know. But the more that you can offer those people support, and the more that you can say, I'm with you, you're doing the right thing, I think that's better.
Yeah, that's good. So Mahmoud, let's talk a little bit about what the international bookselling community could be doing to support all of you as you're going through this. And I think you have a lot of engagement with international booksellers. Can you talk a little bit about how booksellers from around the world are working together in some ways?
Yeah, I think the outer circle is kind of two. There is the publishers, if you like. And in one way, we are all one community, but I think the publishers, with no offense, they tend to be a little bit more driven by numbers and driven by what sells and where the market trends are and so on. I think the booksellers tend to be a bit more responsible and a little bit more disciplined, and I think they see the campus as a bit more clearer. And that's why naturally for booksellers, I think, although I personally appreciate all the support I get from the publishing community, but I think the much more valuable, and it felt a bit warmth and a bit more genuine, is the support you get from booksellers. Because it might not be as financially rewarding as the publishers, who might offer you an extra discount or replacement copies or extra copies, whatever. I think the booksellers give you a much more colleagueship and real support, and they stand next to you, and that they think in the same pattern as you think, and they think immediately of what really helps you, right? Not just money, something else as well. And that's why I think associations of booksellers are very important, and coordination among booksellers are also very, very valuable. I think also it's important to say, we're speaking about San Francisco and Jerusalem. It might be two different places, but really, and Ukraine and Kyiv, it's not really too many different. I mean, the world is a global village, and issues that we are facing are very similar, actually. And we as a booksellers, if we can coordinate and we can exchange our experiences and our tactics and how to encounter them and so on, I think it can really pay off ultimately in favor of the books, which is ultimately in the favor of the publishing industry as a whole as well. Yeah. But I'm more in favor of that conversation happening in booksellers, and it's great that booksellers can use forums of publishing industry actually to their favor. That is a nice conversation to have.
That's wonderful, yeah. So we have a little extra time. Are you all up for some questions from the audience?
Great.
All right, do we have any questions from the audience? I'll come to you with a microphone. No, oh, we do.
Is bookselling political?
Who would you like to direct that to? Just the whole panel? Whole panel. Is bookselling political?
Yes.
Yes.
We need more than a one-word answer. Give us like 7 more words. 7 more words each.
Look, if you help people to understand better this world, to think better, and to just make their choices, it means choice means politics. If you're not making choice, it's not a democracy, it's autocracy, and who cares about thinking, who cares about anything here? And yesterday in a great opening, we heard a lot about democracies. So when you make a lot of different ideas come through to people, if you trying to make conversation inside, you going to democracy, and democracy, politics, it cannot be without. In my case, a lot of people saying around the world that sports not in politics, music is not politics, books is not politics, but I think it's politics, all the politics, and now I wish all of you will go to Ukrainian stand, and I wish it would be no Russian stand and no Russian publisher, but they are here. And this is politics. That's how it works.
If it weren't political, no bookstore would ever face repercussions for carrying certain books, and they certainly do, so it obviously is. And I think that is, all you can see, you hear a lot about, are books important anymore? Is anybody reading? Does anybody care? But the fact that they're banning books means that books are important. It clearly matters. So the reaction wouldn't be so strong if it weren't evidently political.
I think if I just to add, I agree with everything that has been said, but just to add an extra layer to this, I think the definition of political in some societies, particularly Western European societies, has took a different dimension to what is other societies, mostly in the South or the global South, or what does it mean? For people who live in oppression, everything is political. Even a football game becomes political, or a music concert is political, or the colors that you're using in your branding, or the curtain using behind you becomes political. But I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I think in very of the developed, so quote unquote, countries who have not seen wars or dominations or persecution for years, the word political became much more narrow in its meaning, and therefore we have lots of things that are non-political. And that's why you said earlier about some fictions that's not political. Well, fiction can be very political without even addressing any political thing. A poem can be very political, but it just depends on who wrote it and what is the context and what is our definition on what is political. The world I live in, everything is political.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, the definition of political and who and the context and the author and the audience. Yeah, very much. Yeah. All right, other question. All right, we have some questions over here. I'll get them.
Oh, that's nice.
Hi, my name is Agatha. I have a bookstore in São Paulo. It's not so related to the theme, but I would like to hear your opinions on that. It seems like your bookstore are very geographically specific, like mine. How do you think about growth in that terms? Because we know it is also business, even though in times of war. So I would like to know, how do you measure growth in these terms? Thank you.
Yeah, good job. Okay, growth. How do you measure growth in these times? Sorry, next question right there. Wait, just one second. Yeah. How do you measure growth? Yep.
If you have one bookstore, and I think that growth is overpriced. Your community, growth of your community, and you as a person who run a bookstore, this is more important than just numbers, etc. And if growth is in matter of competing with online and audiobooks on TikTok, etc. If you need it, so you have to grow. If you just have great place to work, to meet people, why should you need some great growth? Just grow your community, be happy, and don't be frost.
I just have two things to say here. One is, I agree. I think it should be measured by impact. And I don't come from the NGO word, but I do like that word because I do think it is the impact on the society that you're creating. When I left custody after 2 nights and then not knowing what's happening in the world and finding that there's a demonstration of 200 people outside the court, I was like, wow, I do mean something to my society. And you're not aware of it because it doesn't really reflect on your till, but it does reflect on the impact you have on people and how many people who tell you, you know, that book that you recommended to me has changed my life. Yeah. The more the booksellers hear that, the more it gives them vitamins to keep going. So that's important. I think the kind of space branching kind of growth is bad, I think, for the bookshops. I think bookshops need booksellers, and if you're in bookshop, you have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 booksellers, then you can have 5 branches. But the minute you start to just export like a supermarket and branch out, you lost your DNA as an independent community bookshops. And I think, contrary to what you feel as growth, this is actually not growth. This is actually the road to closure, if I to be dramatic. So I think it's better for booksellers to focus on their own space and create the impact that they want. If they were very lucky with a son or a brother or a friend or a neighbor who really is passionate for a bookseller, then that's a time to grow. But bookshops need booksellers. They don't need a till. They need a booksellers. And if you don't have a bookseller, don't grow.
To use a visual metaphor, the whole time a tree is growing branches, the roots are also growing down deeper. So if you can find ways to partner with other people in your community, an organization or a restaurant or a bar or something, it's always great to have those kind of partnerships because that brings new people in and they get to see you and your bookstore in a new way.
Good. All right, our next question, yes?
Yeah. You're communicating in English, but your books are written in different languages. So I'm wondering how the cooperation, the exchange is working. Maybe you can give concrete examples. Thank you.
I sell books in Arabic and in English, and we have, I don't know if it is completely separate markets, but there's a bit of overlapping. We sell mostly non-fiction in English and a lot fiction in Arabic. We're selling different demographies and different age groups and different books, and I think that's just the beauty of it. There's a little overlap in between, but yes, you are almost have 2 brains, if you like. Usually you have 2 people responsible for each section. It adds a little bit more insight about your community, the fact that you know what each people are reading, because you could almost guess what kind of conversation is happening in each language among each community. I don't think it's a problem. It's a much more a burden to be a bit more nuanced in your work and a bit more closer to each community separately with its own characteristics.
In my case, we have to unite Ukrainians with one language, Ukrainian. That's why we're trying to do our best to promote this. But we have to tell to the world about Ukraine on English language. That's why we have to have shelves with books from Ukrainian authors, but on English language. It's not that easy because rights are selling to the UK, publishing in UK, so I have to buy book from UK to sell it in Kyiv to promote even to UK citizens, who visit Kyiv. So this is our thing. But because of the speed of translation, etc., it's much better if we are speaking about non-fiction. It's better to read original books because anyway, if this idea become a book, it means that it came to this person like years ago, then it's tried, and then it become a book. And then in 2 years it's translated to your language. It means it's not that fresh at all. That's why I'm trying to promote reading on English also for sure for non-fiction, something political, historical, and life habits, etc., to be more in touch with the world at the same time.
Have you ever thought of talking to publishers about sort of selling the English language rights and then holding the Ukrainian publication so you can simultaneously publish?
We have only one publisher who make books on English language in Ukraine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's called Ukrainian, and he's now on the stage. But
Okay.
they're trying to earn all the publishers. They're trying to earn money. It's easy to sell the rights, take money, not care.
Yeah, fair enough.
But that's, Erin, is interesting what you're saying, because we did that with a book that's, the author is here, Matthew, with his book in Jerusalem. It was like, we need the launch in Jerusalem before the launch in London, because it's a book about Jerusalem. Yes, it's published in London. And it depends. If the publisher is of a medium size, if responsive, it's not one of this big things that you don't know who you're talking to, it's possible to do these creative things, or sometimes do a special edition or a special event, or pre-publication, publication, or hold the rights, or do local printing, or tag with a separate organization. You do all these creative, which we love to do.
Right.
But the answer is really often is in the hand of the publishers and how rigid or flexible they are.
Yeah.
I would say we carry books in Spanish and a little bit in Mandarin and Cantonese too, and it is kind of shocking how difficult it can be to get your hands on some of those books for the people in your community who want to read those languages. One of the reasons I wanted to come to Frankfurt was to understand a little bit more about why that's so hard. So hopefully I learn.
Definitely. All right, we have time for one last quick question.
Where do you draw the line, if you do draw a line, between books you would and wouldn't sell for political reasons? I understand, quality issues, maybe you don't like the book, but in terms of politics, do you draw a line where you wouldn't sell a book because of what it advocates?
Thank you.
This should have been the first question. We developed a whole conversational flow chart process to talk about exactly these kinds of books with both staff and customers. The main thing, and that's never going to be a one-size-fits-all answer, as I've already kind of demonstrated in speaking to you guys, is does the person directly advocate harm to others?
Good line, yeah.
Thanks. I think this is a very, very great question that I've been personally wondering on the last 2 years, because in fact, you do have curating power. And then what you have and what you don't is actually a decision that you have, and then you have it, basically. It just happened to be that my bookstore is a family-run business with 6 brothers and a sister that we have dinner every night, and our board meeting is every night. So you decide. But in truth is there is no fine line, and that line also shifts. Where you are at a certain moment, what's the discussion in the society is. what you feel will be useful. And that's why I said, booksellers are also public health doctors in a way. Yes. You have to answer what at that moment in discussion. Now, the important thing to remember is that we don't have a monopoly over knowledge. So even if I don't have the book, that's okay. That's I might get it right, I might get it wrong, but I'm not monopolizing that decision. Some other bookstore might choose to have it, and then as an audience, they have a choice. That's one thing. Second thing is the customers are usually the one who check with you. If you're loved and you cared by your community, that means whatever the line you are drawing or the lines you are drawing is appreciated because you are loved by your community, which means you provided an appreciated service. If you're not successful and the community is keep responding to you negatively and keep telling you yes and no and yes, then maybe your lines are not correct. So that's the value of having a very, very healthy communicative discussion with your communities, that you're always leading some sort of a change within your community, but you're also carrying the community with you, because that's the key about change, is you're doing the change gradual, in conversational. You're not mad about your ideas, but you are also wanted the change. So you carry that in conversation with your community, and they are the one who, in the end, have to decide, I love this bookshop or I don't love it. This is my bookshop or this is not my bookshop.
Yeah.
And that's the end of it.
That's an amazing last line to leave it on. So that's the end of our time here. Please thank our panelists. Thank you all for being a really engaged audience. Thank you for the great questions, and stay tuned for our next event.